Ho gee, he gee, hi gee, how'd you do? That's from a children's song that was on a children's music tape that my daughter had when she was little. I'm Suzanne from Making It in Maine, and I think in song lyrics. Ho gee, he gee, hi gee, how'd you do? I'm upstairs, excuse me, in my quilt room, my sewing room, and I am ironing, binding fabric for the, wait a minute, this is, I'm a goofball. I had this laying out near the quilt for my granddaughter, just being a complete space shot, thinking that this was the binding material for her quilt. Well, it's not. This is the binding fabric for Hello Luscious, the quilt that I just dropped off at the Long Arm Quilter. So it's going to be all ironed and ready for me to make that binding strip. So, ow, watch out for the hot iron. So after I finish ironing this, I'll go get the fabric for my granddaughter's quilt. Oy vey. This is pretty. What do you think? What do you think? You don't want to watch me continue ironing this. I have just cooked some quinoa because I am making a quinoa fruit and nut salad to take to my Buddhist meeting tomorrow, because after the meeting we are having a potluck, kind of a farewell to my very good friend who introduced me to this Buddhist practice. So that will be fun. I have to go to the grocery store in a few minutes, in a wee bit, to pick up a few more ingredients and just do a little bit of picking up things we need for the week. So I should have put this right aside as soon as I realized it was the wrong fabric. But here I am ironing it. So the quinoa fruit and nut salad that I'm going to make comes out of the cookbook Around My French Table by Dory Greenspan. And this may have gone in a video that I started a long time ago and deleted, talking about how I had several friends of mine years ago buy that cookbook, and we all cooked recipes from it and had kind of like a potluck. And it was a way of trying many recipes from the same cookbook without having to make them all ourselves. So somebody would be in charge of the appetizer, soup course, super salad course, entree, dessert. It was super fun, super fun. And I may throw a few photos from that in the in with this video, if I can mask the faces to protect the innocent. Yeah, I don't want to include anybody's photo that I don't have permission from, and I'm not going to ask 5 or 6 different friends if I can add their photos to my YouTube video. Here is a menu and photos showing what we had at this particular Around My French Table gathering. All I had to do was crop off the photos of my friends at the bottom. Easy peasy. Okie dokie. This piece of fabric is ready to go. I need 300 feet of bias tape for my granddaughter's quilt. And to arrive at that number, I get the square footage of the quilt. So I measure the entire perimeter, all 4 sides. And that was, what was that number? That number was 135 square inches. And to that, it's recommended that you add 15 more inches for the mitered corners and just finishing it when the 2 ends of the bias binding come together. So I need 300. Well, yeah. So then you take that number and multiply it by 2. 2 is the inch width I want my bias binding to be, because then I'm folding it in half. You'll see all that. So I need 300 inches of bias binding. All right, I'm going to go get the fabric for my granddaughter's quilt. Down on my hands and knees. Oh, I know that's a song, but it's not coming to me. But look at the beautiful blue sky out there. It's a nice day. The humidity finally dropped yesterday. It had been super hot and humid. But right now I'm going to square off the edge of this fabric before I cut it. Square up the side. So I will lower you down for that. All right. Lining my ruler up on the edge. And I want to go as close to the edge as possible. So I'm not wasting much fabric. And here I go with my cut. Okay, that's waste. And now I need a 25-inch square. So let's open it up. And I'll tell you how I arrived at the 25 inches. After I finish, I should square up that side. My largest ruler is a 15-inch square. So 15, 10 more I will have to use from this 12.5-inch ruler. So let me first get, let's see. Phew, it is warm, even though the humidity is gone, it is still warm. All right. Let's get up the length here first. So that's 15. We need 10 more. That's a little bit tricky. I think I have to pause the video until I get this done so I don't mess up. Okay, that was hairy and scary. because I don't have a 25-inch square ruler, I was using my 15-inch square, and I was using my 6-inch by 24-inch ruler, as well as my 12.5-inch square ruler. So a whole lot of that. And here is my 25-inch square. So if I fold it in half, actually if I fold it in quarters, it should be a 12.5-inch square. Let's see how I did, because I was having to layer one ruler on top of another, and oof, it's a challenge. It was a challenge. So let's see. Let's see how I did. Let me just get everything lined up here. Can you hear that whining sort of noise in the background? That is my husband. He is putting an addition on his work garage where the tractor, his tractor gets stored, the lawn tractor gets stored, and other various things. So he's putting an addition on the back of it so he can put that sort of outside equipment under cover. Well, it's already under cover, but getting it out of the main part of the garage will allow him some space to work on projects and things like that if he wants to do any woodworking projects and that sort of thing. All right. The time of truth. Putting my 12.5-inch square ruler on, and I'd say I did pretty well. Did pretty well. Here's the front of the ruler. Woo woo. So now what I have to do is cut this square in half on the diagonal. And that will be another bit of a challenge because there again, I don't have a long enough ruler for that. So, what is the best way for doing that? I think the best way to accomplish it might be to fold this in half diagonally. I don't know. I might want to, let's see, does this have a, this doesn't really have a diagonal on it, but this one does. So let's see if I do that. That should give me my diagonal line. All right. There again, when I'm doing these really fussy, don't want to mess it up kind of things, it's good, I think, that I shut the video off. So I'll be back. Here's what I'm doing. I have lined my 45-degree angle along the edge of my fabric. So I've got my longest ruler coming down diagonally from the center. And then I have my 12.5-inch ruler to continue down to the other corner. And I am going to slice. Gently moving my hand up the ruler so it doesn't slide. Let's turn you this way and get back on track. Sliding my hand up and boom, shakalaka. Okay. There are my 2 bias edge triangles. Watching this back while editing, I thought, oh my word, why didn't I just use the 45-degree angle to make my cut when it was folded in half into a triangle? And now I need to do right sides together. So I'm gonna flip these babies over this way first. Okay, so flipping them over, and then I need to, I think I need to go like this. Yes, like that. Sort of, I don't know what you would call this, like a, what would you call this shape? Lining that corner up there and this corner here. Come down a little bit. Can you hear my fingernails scratching along the fabric? All right, let me adjust the camera. All right, that's where I'm at now. And now I need to pin along this edge and sew with a 1/4-inch seam. Got to take it down to my temporary sewing room and sew it. Now I'm ready to mark out the 2-inch lines on this piece of fabric that's going to be the binding for my granddaughter's quilt. And I'm hoping that I'm not going to regret deciding on 2 inches instead of 2 1/4. I hope I don't regret it, but I'm going to go with it. So I have my chalk marker tool, and I'm going to mark my edges. All right, I was worried that this pink chalk marker, I was afraid it might not show up on this peachy colored fabric, but it is showing up quite well. Let's make another 2-inch mark. All right, this is going to take a while, so I'm not going to bore you. I'll be back when it's done. Okay, it's all marked. 2-inch lines all along. So now this is where it gets just so funky because you have to offset by 1. So instead of lining it up like that with the 2, yeah, that's not going to show up now, is it? Hold on. You probably don't even care. So, can you see that? Instead of, yeah, I don't think you can see that, but instead of lining it up like that, you have to offset by 1. So, in other words, you have a little tail hanging off the edge. And now I have to pin it. It's a very fudgy process. Why am I doing it? Because in the end, it's easier. But this part is fiddly. So I'm going to fiddle with it. I'll be back again. Well, I just don't trust that everything's lining up. So I am aborting my plan to do a continuous binding. I'm going to just cut the strips at 2 inches. My right eye hurts. Have you ever had a sty? It's like your eye has a little bit of an ache, and oftentimes when it feels like that, I'm starting to get a sty. I don't get them often, and it sounds kind of gross, doesn't it? Like pig sties. It's not, yeah. Nothing to do with a pig, but anyway, that's how my eye is feeling right now. Not that you need to know that, but whenever it does feel like that, I put what my mother used to call a hot compress on it. I get a washcloth as hot as I can stand it, and wring it out and hold it on my eye, and do that a few times. And I repeat it, for a day or so until my eye stops feeling funky. And sometimes when you have a sty, you can actually see like a red, swollen situation. I haven't looked at it in the mirror to see, because it just kind of started feeling that way. All right, I've got to locate my rotary cutter. I'll be back. All right, I've got it. So now I'm going to cut my 2-inch strips. And then I'm going to have to sew them together on the bias edge. Yeah, I don't know about you, but you can cut a piece of fabric sometimes, and you can line up your ruler on one end and then the other, but in the middle doesn't always match up. Do you have that problem? Ever? Yes, it's been so long since I've done a continuous bias binding, and I will attempt it again, but The stars just don't seem to be aligned for tonight. It's been a very, very off week for me. Very off week. Yeah. Almost got in an accident on my way to work the other day because I had overslept, and then I was hurrying, rushing, wanted to pass a slower vehicle in front of me. And as I pulled out to pass, I noticed that there was a car in front of that truck turning left. And luckily, I was able to put the brakes on, reacting fast enough so I didn't smash into that car. Ooh la la. That would not have been good. I think it's time for me to change my rotary cutter blade. I don't change them as often as I should, I'm sure. And I don't change my sewing machine needle probably as often as I should either. C'est la vie. Are you diligent? Are you diligent about doing that? Yes. I feel like I don't have a lot to yammer on about this afternoon. Yes, this is a new day. I have not been on camera for a while. Just busy on the weekends, tired after work. It's a Friday for me. Friday, and I had some energy this afternoon. So I figured I better get up here and do some filming. Otherwise, you're going to say, forget that making it in Maine woman. She's just not on often enough. My friend left this week for her new destination where she's going to start law school. I'll still have lots of Buddhist activities. But she was my Buddhist sidekick. Not just for Buddhist activities. We used to do things that were not related. And that was super fun. I better stop talking about it because I'm getting emotional. I'm excited for her, though. I'm excited to hear how law school is, how her new city is, how she's going to be living near a Buddhist center, which will be very exciting because for us here in Maine, our closest center is near Boston. So, oh, that rotary cutter is dull. So anyway, she's going to be very close to a center, and I'm very excited for her for that. And yeah, it's just gonna be very exciting for her. Lots of new changes, meeting lots of new people. Yeah, I'm excited to hear all about it. Oh, this is, had I successfully done the continuous bias, I would have been able to take a pair of scissors and just cut along the lines. But alas, that is not happening now. I'm getting hungry. I think I'll make a big salad for dinner, and don't know what else I'll have with it. I better stop the video because I think I'm struggling for things to say. I'll be back. All right, my 2-inch bias strips are cut, and now I need to go sew them together. That might have to be after I eat, or maybe tomorrow. We shall see, said Big Max. I am at my sewing machine working on the bias binding. I have the bias edges and I line them up like this, leaving about the same little triangle overhang on each end. And if I sew with a 1/4 inch seam along there, having lined it up so I have roughly the same size little triangle overhang, then I end up with a nice join. Now sometimes it doesn't quite line up nicely. In fact, that happened with one of my joins a little bit ago, and I will show you that in a minute. Let's see how well this one lines up. Okay, so if I pull it apart, well, not pull it apart, but if I finger press and open it up like that, the edges, oops, struggle is real. The edges line up. Let me cut that little dog ear off and I'll cut this. Well, that dog ear is hidden. That dog ear is lined up. Okay, so you see how nicely they're joined there. But I put a pin to mark one that I need to rip apart. Yeah, see this one? You see how this one doesn't line up? It does not line up well at all. So that one I need to rip apart, seam, rip it apart, and redo it, because it just didn't turn out right. So I'm excited. Whoops, that's not the seam ripper. I'm excited that I'm one step closer to finishing my granddaughter's quilt. Very exciting. Much better, much better. The dog ear away. There we are. That is much better. I have one piece left, and this one has a tiny little piece, and hopefully that will just get cut off and not be part of the binding of the quilt. All right, let's see. Where's the end? Where's the end? I can't find the end. Where is it? All right, there's an end. We just have a look at the other end. All right, that. Just want to get far away. So I think I will join these two ends. All right, that should do it. Let's sew the last two pieces together. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, that edge looks good. Finger press. Snip the dog ear off. Well, this side isn't perfect, but yeah, this one didn't come out perfect. Didn't come out as well as I would like, but you know what? When it comes down to it, this gets folded in half, and then it gets sewn on to the edge of, the raw edges get sewn on to the front of the quilt, and then it gets turned to the back, so you're not going to even know that that edge isn't perfect. So I have got to press all of these seams open, and then it will be ready to attach to the quilt. I'm at my little pressing station. I've got little bits of triangle on it. It's a wool pad, a wool pressing pad that I got at the quilt show a couple of years ago, and I really like it, and it fits perfectly on this wooden TV tray that was my parents' folding TV tray. We had some metal-legged, aluminum-legged plastic or something plastic TV trays when I was a kid. I'm guessing my mother bought them in the 70s or something, because they were those 70 colors and of golds and yellows and brown. They had flowers on them. Don't know that we ever ate at them. Maybe on an occasion we probably thought it was a treat to, on Friday nights we got to eat what we wanted. And sometimes we got to choose a TV dinner, which we thought was such a treat. I look back on it now and I think, gross, so gross. I think the desserts were especially gross. But yeah, TV trays and TV dinners. Crazy times. Crazy times. I should be rolling this up as I go along, shouldn't I? So if you're a quilter, do you do bias bindings? Supposedly, they are more durable. They last longer than straight of grain. And yeah, I like doing them. I guess sometimes I've done straight of grain. And for a wall hanging or something that you're not going to use, straight of grain would be fine. But for quilts that get used on people's beds or lap quilts that you're, rubbing up against a lot and that get laundered a lot, a bias binding is the better way to go. And I do a French binding, which is double thickness. And as I'm rolling this up, I'm thinking, why am I bothering? Because I'm going to press it in half. I'm going to put raw edges together and iron it in half. I don't know how long this is. I should measure it. Got to make sure it goes around the perimeter of my granddaughter's quilt. I thought I must be getting to the place where I haven't ironed the seams open yet, but lo and behold, I have not. Brace yourself. The most exciting part of the video is coming up. Not so much the video as my topic of conversation. Incredibly riveting. On my way home tonight, I was going to peel and slice a cucumber to eat on my ride home, but I forgot to do that. So I just ate it, skin and all, which of course you can do, but I guess generally, unless it's a European cucumber, I peel it. Don't know why. Doesn't need to be peeled. Some do, because the skin is just kind of tough, but this one was not tough. It was very good. I ate one of my salad turnips too, my beloved salad turnips. Why on earth did I think you would be interested in hearing me talking about eating a cucumber and salad turnip on my way home? I picked quite a bit from the garden last night. I will stick a photo of what I picked right here. Pretty good, eh? Pretty good haul. I could have picked a lot more blueberries, but it was getting late, time for dinner. Yeah, so I initially went out to pick a cucumber that was visible from the kitchen window that was clearly ready to be picked, and when I got out there, I saw that there were two more ready to be picked, and I knew that there were more salad turnips ready to pick too, so I went down to the bigger garden to pull those out. And while I was there, yeah, I had to pick the rest of the stuff. Cauliflower and some broccoli. The broccoli, not impressed with the broccoli this year at all. And some years, as I recall, last year's broccoli was cruddy too. Very disappointing. The heads this year are small and they're kind of yellow. I don't know, maybe it's our soil. Maybe it is the soil. I don't know. I'm not an expert gardener by any means. All right, that is all done. Big old roll of binding. I ended up cutting that little piece off the end. It's just going to be a nuisance, so I can turn that into a scrap. I've gotten inspired recently to make some sense of some of my scraps. So that'll be upcoming, I think. All right, time to iron this in half. Get things out of the way. I'm thinking more about TV dinners, back to the whole TV dinner thing from my childhood, and I think I would most often get fried chicken TV dinner. Probably came with corn, mashed potato, and some awful little dessert. There's usually some sort of cake thing. And sometimes I think I got a Salisbury steak. Okay, now speaking of Salisbury steak, I have a recipe for, it's kind of like a Salisbury, French onion Salisbury steak. That's what it is. Oh my goodness. It is so delicious. One place where I used to work, the private school and camp, the man that hired me, my boss, was retiring, and I wanted to make him a special meal. Well, I wanted to make a meal for him and my two co-workers. So I made that French onion Salisbury steak. It's so delicious. You take ground beef and seasonings and mix that into the meat, and you saute a bunch of onion, and you put some tomato paste in and some other things to make this unctuous, saucy situation, kind of like French onion soup. Yeah, some probably beef broth and a little bit of tomato paste, and then you put the burgers that you sauteed, fried, whatever you want to say, into that sauce, and then you put them on top of baguette slices that have had some, I don't know, garlicky butter put on, and then a sprinkling of Parmesan cheese was one of my favorite meals back in the day when I ate gluten and dairy on the regular. Super delish. I enjoy ironing fabric. Don't enjoy ironing clothes per se, but I enjoy ironing fabric. So this is going to be, oof, I'm starting to regret having made just a 2-inch binding because, oh, it's going to be tight. It's going to be, oh, I don't know if I have enough of this fabric to do it again if I need to. I think I'm going to go get the quilt and try it out. Hold on. Well, here it is, and the quilt has this going along the edge, and I actually realized that I have not squared it up and cut all the excess binding off. So I will need to do that. I'm not as far along as I thought I was in getting this binding on. So I shall be back at another point to finish discussing, showing, etc. Thanks so much for watching. I will be back in another video another day when I have more to show you regarding this quilt and its binding. Until then, from my heart to yours, bye for now.